Each bow our heads, please. Father, we thank you for the day that you've given us, and ask that you would direct us in those things that become before us tonight, that conclude the information will be clear and good, and decisions can be made for the best of our community. We ask it in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mrs. Kirby.
Councilwoman Horton. Here. Councilman Crocker.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilman Davis.
Here.
Councilman Black.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh. Here. And Mayor DeGarris.
Here.
You're the quorum.
Thank you. Disclosure of interest. Any member of the City Council may disclose any possible conflict of interest dealing with either any item on the printed agenda or with any matter discussed at a previous meeting. Seeing none, each person in the audience may take this opportunity to address the City Council on any matter which is not on the printed agenda. Mr. Baker?
Felix Baker, 3500 Marble Hill Road, Poplar Bluff. Appreciate seeing y'all this evening. Thank you all for your service. Again, as many of you know me as the president of the Butler County Landlord Association. Excuse me. Over the past several years, the Butler County Landlord Association has hosted question and answer sessions with the City of Poplar Bluff City Council candidates. In fact, over the years, several of you have agreed to attend these sessions, and each time as a group, we have mentioned the possibility of establishing a landlord advisory board for the City of Poplar Bluff, much like the Arbor or Tree Board, the HVAC Board, the other boards that are also there, etc. And during these sessions, several of you have expressed a favorable opinion of that suggestion. I would like to pursue this endeavor of establishing a new board to cooperate with the landlords, tenants, city offices, and naturally the City of Poplar Bluff City Council. And I strongly feel and that a diversified board consisting of perhaps a landlord at large, a member of our Butler County Landlord Association, a member from maybe code enforcement, representative police department, and perhaps municipal utilities, a realtor, maybe a property manager, representative, etc., could impact a positive measure for the conditions of rental property, renters, and the overall living experience in Poplar Bluff. This could become a cooperative group who could discuss and recommend and implement positive changes in residential rental things in Poplar Bluff. And I propose to the City Council members tonight to explore this option and maybe make a motion to include this proposal in your agenda for a workshop in the near future. I and other members of the Butler County Landlord Association and other landlords who are not members of the association would make ourselves available for this endeavor. As you know, the ability to communicate openly, honestly, and exchange ideas between cooperative groups can lead to great things. Let's all work together and possibly have a new board. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would request that Mr. Messingham meet with persons that he feels need to be gathered together from the city side and representatives of this group, and further explore this and maybe bring something back in the way of a document that we could consider and work from, with an understanding, but a little bit more of exactly how things can work and the goals.
It's a good suggestion.
Now, I've said that in disclosure. I want you all to know I am a member of that Butler County Landlords Association, but I don't think I have a conflict with trying to move it forward. If I do, Mr. Richardson, please void me. And
But this was a request and not a motion.
Yes.
At this point, there's no conflict.
Okay.
I know that we've discussed how many committees we've had on the city or not, but this could be something that we've always not had a direct line of communication with the Landlord Association. This could be an option for us to explore, that we do have a a direct communication with the landlord association with a board like this, where they can say their grievances or their pleasures or work out problems, and we as a city can come back and have an open line of discussion with them. I know we have some boards on here that hardly ever meet, but I think this one could be beneficial for the city.
I talked to City of Perryville probably back in December because I was told they had a city board for landlords, and then actually ran into the city administrator in Jefferson City last week at the MML conference. The way he explained it to me, they didn't actually have a city board, but they meet with them quarterly, and he said it's helped them. I think it's helped the City of Perryville and the landlords both, and I'm not saying we don't need a city board, but whatever they're doing over there has actually helped them, so. I mean, I've always said any communication certainly would be a plus and help things, so.
So are you saying that they probably need to kind of form the board on their own and not be under city rules and regulations, or?
No, I was just saying that really it sounded like that's what Perryville was doing. I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but I'll come back to you all soon with what I think might work, and we can banter it around and offer suggestions. And
Sounds good to me.
What would be the vision or the mission to have that board that they don't already have? Because I feel like Mark is an open door policy, and they have Ron as a direct liaison to the council. What benefit would it be to add that board? You all want to address that?
I think one benefit would be, what if Ron's not on the council?
But they could have any of us. Each of us would be representation.
I agree with you. I can see both sides, but I do think it's a pretty good opportunity to have an open dialogue between both the landlord association and council. Wouldn't hurt.
The why. I'm looking for the why.
Well, some of the things that have happened in some of our discussions, and I think would be very more beneficial through the board, through a board, is when we talk to the utilities people that come to our meeting, and we have come to some things. For example, a lot of people that are in debt to the city utilities. Now we've worked out some, where they have to see our lease.
Like your tenants are in debt to the city.
The tenants are in debt to
Gotcha,
the
okay.
city for utilities, and now we have to give them who's actually on our lease, so they can see that before they turn the utilities on. And if in fact somebody has delinquent bills, then they're already notified of that, and they won't turn it on until those bills are paid. So it has been an asset, our group, but I think a board would also be beneficial in doing some of those things. Reciprocal things such as, one of the things, for example, we'd like to see, and I think a board could actually hash out better, would be like the city is getting the new electric meters, and before they actually cut them off and on, I know Ozark Border does it for us all the time. If in fact they're going to do a cutoff, especially in the winter. Summer's not too bad, but in the winter when it's 18 degrees and you cut the electric off, you're going to have frozen pipes, and it's an expense to us. Not to mention that the city water's running maybe 2 weeks out in the middle of, in the street, and we only get to pay for half of it if we get a plumber. So, but the city doesn't need to incur those expenses either. So if we could work out some ways to do that, I think everybody could win with discussions about certain things that would help the landlords and would help the city. And I think it's a reciprocal thing, and I think a board would give it more credence to, and a better ability to do that, I think. That's one example, and I'm sure I can think of more, but right now, right off the top of my head, I can't think of them, but there are more.
What about the landlord such as myself that is not a part of that association?
I don't think it just
How does
needs-
that work?
I don't think it needs to be just our board, just our landlords. I think we need to have a more eclectic group of people. We need to have landlords that are not on the board, are on our association, there you go. Not in the association, we need to have those. I think we need to work with code enforcement better, instead of having, and I would say maybe an adversarial relationship at times. You know, I know what paper gave us some bad press a year or two ago about how bad and it's not really that way. I mean, you know, when somebody comes in for example, I think one of the houses, somebody went in and stole all, you know, it was being remodeled, and somebody went in and stole all the copper and all the plumbing and
There's a
stuff
big
out of it.
problem.
Well, it did sit there for, I mean, you know, you can't put that kind of money in and get it all stolen and just jump right back in and do it over. So, but I think some of those board, you know, and with the understanding if that's what happened, if some of the city code enforcement could have seen, you know, it's kind of like an understanding of, well, I understand that. You know, we're going to be a little bit more lenient with somebody and getting it time to fix it up as opposed to, you know, well, it just looks like a derelict building still sitting there. And I think, you know, the city's worked with us real well, but I think it would give more credence to it if everybody had, you know, maybe a realtor and a renter, you know, that would have input to a different perspective. We're not just asking for just us. We want to have an eclectic board that would help the city. If there, and sometimes there's problems, sometimes there's not, but I think we could make it a lot better for the city.
Would it help if, prior to having a board, should you get one, but would it help if you had a code enforcement or a councilman or a policeman or somebody join your meeting, just so you all could ask questions there? Like, really, it's communication.
Well,
It's really
it
trying to
is.
work things out before it becomes a problem.
Right, it is. And we're not opposed to that. You know, we've had,
We have done it, so.
we have, I mean.
And
we've
has that
talked
been
to probably-
successful?
We've
To
had.
some extent.
We've had the police people come down. We've had city council city managers come down. We've had lots of, you know, matter of fact, we had code enforcement. We've had a lot of people come in, but it's just a one-time meeting where if you had a kind of a monthly contact with them, you know, you can build that relationship and maybe make it a more positive relationship as opposed to, well, you know.
And
that's
how often do you all meet?
We meet monthly.
Monthly?
So, you know, and I don't, and we may only meet quarterly, I don't know. But I do know in Perryville that they've had more problems apparently than we have.
Sounded like it.
And it sounds like it, because I don't think we have a whole lot of those problems, but they have resolved a lot of them with their, I'm not sure it's a board or committee, whatever that actually works, but they work through the city to any complaints that the city would get on landlords' issues, and they've resolved a lot more of them, and it has reduced the city's stress level, I guess, or, you know, function, you know, they don't have to deal with it because the board deals with it. And it's made everybody a better situation up there. So we just think it's a possibility that it would behoove the city and the landlords and all involved and the renters. You know, they would have some input. Where in our when we're working from our group, we have our own agenda. But if you had a more eclectic group, it would be everybody could win and have input. And I think it would be more beneficial to the city to do that.
Some of those benefits, that's what I was just trying to see, what that would be.
The benefits to the city? Well, I mean, I can just think of one that came from our meeting, but,
Okay.
but the same thing could happen in those meetings, would be the collections of basically thousands of dollars in revenue back to the municipal utilities due to the fact that better communication has saved them money, because a lot of the people that were doing it in the past were not getting caught. We figured out the way to catch them. Now it's being, resolved. So, but I think more of those things can happen. If we understand what your needs are, you understand what our needs are, everybody works together to come up with a common solution that everybody would benefit from.
I'm just trying to find what the needs are and what the benefit would be
Yeah.
that you can't already do.
And I have, well, I've got more right now I can't think of.
Okay.
But.
Well, maybe when you do the plan, like you talked about, that would be helpful to
Okay,
see where we're
we can
going
do
with
that.
it. Because it is a great expense to the city to add a board. You know, we have to have a clerk there. You have to have it, you have to have it advertised, so you have to
Right.
just see,
Well, but I think it would be.
in these stressful money times, is it
Right.
something that we could
And it-
afford?
But I do think it would be beneficial. I mean, I know it's already paid the city utilities. They've made a lot of money back on it, so,
Mm-hmm.
and the result and it solves the problem of having them repeat people do it. Because once they know that
Oh, I
they're gonna
know.
get caught, it just kinda.
Well, they put it in somebody else's name because they
Well,
owe the city
they
money.
used to. And they
but-
still do some, but
Yeah.
we catch those names in our rent. As they lease the property, we know hopefully know who's living there, unless somebody's invited in, of course, but it does reduce the amount of, to that.
But the communication in that incident really is between the landlords and the utility company, making sure that your lease goes before they turn any utility on any property you own. That would be the
Yes.
stopgap
Well,
in that.
for example, the police department came out and talked to us a few months ago, and I think it was drug enforcement and stuff. You know, the ability to know whose property's whose, in case they were going to do some drug busts and stuff. A lot of us, you know, have keys to that property, so look, we don't need to know who you're, but you can have our master keys to those properties. And that way you don't have to kick in our door, and it's easier access. You know, I mean, that was one of the things we talked about, that, you know, if they needed it and they got the warrant, they got a key instead of busting the door down. And that's just through talking, but we don't get an opportunity to do that with every group of people. Where this, I think, would give us a more opportunity to do that.
And then you would bring something back to council? I mean, I'm still trying to see how the flow would be, how it would work.
I don't.
I think it'd just be informational, you know, and get a lot of those bugs worked out on some of that, like Councilman Black suggested. You know, if we have to get, during Mr. Massingham working on it some, and the landlord association, if they say,
We'll-
okay,
we'll
we
be
need
glad
to
to
call
help in any
somebody
way we can,
from
but
utilities or the police department or something to come talk to us and give us some ideas.
And unfortunately, it's a always moving object, people moving in, moving out, so it's not set in stone who lives where, because they're
Right.
constantly moving on you and adding people. And
So, but it has reduced it. I don't know, it's fixed the problem permanently, but it's reduced some of it. That's, I think financially significantly, but.
I think some of it would be an asset to the city.
Sure
We
would.
would have a direct communication with the landlord association on our needs.
Right.
And what we see fit from a code enforcement standpoint, from a street department standpoint. It seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I don't have all the statistics. But it seems to me, just from driving around the city, the rental property situation's going up, home ownership's going down. And
I
so this
agree.
would give us an opportunity to have an opportunity to speak directly with the landlord association and the renters.
Well, and-
It's just a thought. I mean, it's good for discussion.
And
To have
honestly,
an open mind to see what could be good for both sides that we could work on.
that's why I'm asking. I mean,
and,
yeah.
I'm
just
not
a
saying
case,
you're wrong.
another case point that comes to mind was, we had the great big discussion about the place, the new low-income housing, I forgot.
And the veterans.
Veterans, so, and it really was or wasn't, you know, whatever. But they claimed that there was a surplus of, I mean, you know, there wasn't any rental property available. Well, today, if you'll look in the paper, and have in the last 2 weeks, every one of those places has opportunities to rent, along with, at that time, we had probably 50 to 55%, just maybe the time of
Well,
the year.
yeah,
But
and they were trying to target a specific group and
Right.
area near the VA in addition to, yes,
Right.
there's always going to be rental property.
Right, but I'm just saying that some of the needs sometimes are, you know, they're there and sometimes they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been a better time we could have communicated to say what our goals are. I mean, you have the power to do what you choose to do, and we understand that. But, what you feel best for the city, but I'm just, sometimes that input to have, hey, what do you think about this, is a lot better than saying, well, we needed that information and it wasn't available to us. And I think that's why a board would be beneficial. I mean, that's another, I mean, I can think of, as I think about it, I can think of more, but right off the top of my head, I can't.
Sure, well, we can talk on it
But
in
anyway.
future, but I was just trying to weigh it up. What would it be giving you differently than what you already have today, other than coming up here every 2 weeks and telling us something? I mean,
I think.
I don't mean that in a smart way. I'm
Right.
just saying that we don't know until you come tell us something.
Right, but I think it would be just a good communications. We would have more input from different people instead of just our group. You know, if we had police, more contact with code enforcement, with police officers, with some of the other city street departments. There's things that can well, for example, you know, the city utilities were cut off a few months ago for repairs. You know, it would be, I mean, it was out there, but it would be a lot better. I mean, we can get that out to a lot of people pretty quick. You know, if we just address our renters and stuff, I mean, just to make sure people are aware
But
of
they
what's
should
happening.
have that already on record. If they know who owns the property and they know that they're going to, by zone, they're going to turn it off, they should already have that information, be able to get that out.
Were you
I
talking,
don't know what a board would change that.
were you talking about the SWPA having to shut down?
When they had to shut down, and
Yeah.
I think recorrect the the grid.
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
not sure exactly, and it was kind
The
of a quicker,
transformer or something they had to replace or
you know,
something.
but it would just be beneficial where, you know, you could communicate better.
Yeah, actually,
Businesses knew it, but
SWPA had actually called Mr. Bach and said they were getting ready to shut it down. And he said, whoa,
Without
wait a
notice
minute.
to any
So-
of us,
Well,
yeah.
but I'm just saying, if they got it, we can get it and get it to people too.
Yeah.
We have probably more contact, a faster contact than some of them.
Well, it's
Plus, it
like a
just
phone
spreads
tree,
the-
like a phone
spreads
tree.
the dissemination of information. So I can see lots of things that would be beneficial.
Yeah.
And we would appreciate your consideration for that. So, if there are any
We'll
more,
definitely take it under advisement and appreciate you bringing it to us.
thank you.
Nothing further, move on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the city council. If any council member would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and considered separately, he or she may request to do so.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Workshop items for discussion. Item A, the city council will discuss amending ordinance number 7239 to correct the zoning designation from RS3 Central Area Residential to RA2 Residential Apartment for property located adjacent to Hickman Road that was annexed into the city on February 22nd, 2011. Mr. Massingham.
Yes, back in February 2011, we annexed property adjacent to Hickman Road. At the time, Mr. Kirby requesting zoning designation of RA2 residential apartment at the time of annexation. It was recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission, but somehow the ordinance was written to say the property was to have a zoning designation of RS3 Central Area Residential. So we are just trying to correct this ordinance that was passed in 2011.
No questions, and entertain a motion and second to move this to the voting session to be held tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, the city council review a request from Planning and Zoning Commission for a conditional use permit to install a new from factory manufactured home at 1014 Clyde Street, which is zoned RS3 Central Area Residential. The applicant is Sylvia Price Yancey, 744-20 Highway 142, Poplar Bluff. Mr. Avery?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you stated, Sylvia Price Yancey is a property owner. In RS3 zoning, manufactured and new manufactured and new modulars can be put into an RS3 district. For a manufactured home, it has to be by conditional use only. At this point, this is a vacant lot. We used to have an old house on it. The owners tore it down some years ago, and they've checked out a nice new home that they're wanting to put on it. This is on the corner of Clyde and Harper Street. Harper Street's a dead end in this portion, going to the AMVETS, back to the AMVETS if you don't know the exact location there. Surrounding land use to the north, south, east, and west is RS3 Central Area Residential, and it was zoned that way in 1972. The comprehensive plan calls for medium-density residential in this area. Land slopes to the northeast. Utilities are available to the site. Access is only from Clyde Street. Police and fire protection is available, with fire station number 2 being the first responder. The addition of the possibility of installing a manufactured homes was introduced to have affordable housing in underutilized areas of the city. This could possibly breathe some new life into an area that is in need of some revitalization. Staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of this conditional use permit for a manufactured home in this location. All requirements for a manufactured home's installation must be met before a permit is issued by the Planning Department, provided the council passes this. Questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No questions, entertain a motion and second to move this to the voting session to be held March 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, the City Council review a request from the Planning and Zoning Commission for a conditional use permit to operate a faith-based, not-for-profit facility for ministry and rehabilitation housing at 416 South C Street, which is zoned RS4. Residential. The applicant is Crossroads Ministry, care of Jimmy Wagner, Post Office Box 1592, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Mr. Avery.
Thank you, Mayor. Crossroads Ministry, care of Jimmy Wagner, is the applicant. Mr. and Mrs. Wagner are here tonight with several of their tenants. Filled up a couple of rows there. They presently operate a faith-based not-for-profit facility for ministry and rehabilitation housing, and they have acquired what used to be the Hint School, and then after that it was the Boys and Girls Club on South C Street. They have hopes to move their entire operation to this location. They have the room and they have the will to do it. They've already been working on the building because it needed quite a bit of work when they acquired it from the school district. It is RS3 single-family residential in this area, and the building is, at this time, last used as a private school gymnasium with the Boys and Girls Club facility attached to it. They own almost all of a block that would be bounded by C Street on the west, D Street on the east, Walnut on the south, and Spruce on the north. They own 10.5 lots total in this area. So they have plenty of ground outside of the building even for parking or whatever other things they might choose to do with it. Surrounding land use to the north, south, east, and west is RS4 residential. Utilities are available to the site. Access can be from Walnut, Spruce, and C Streets. Pardon me. Police and fire protection is available. Fire station number 1 would be the first responder. We discussed this in the planning and zoning meeting, and at the time we discussed it, we started with an old application and we didn't have the proper number of tenants, so we've changed that. And the applicant proposes to house up to 20 men who are seeking addiction recovery services. They have been providing services for over 3 years in different locations. The proposed use should not have a negative impact on the surrounding properties. And as I stated, they have already been working on this building because it had a lot of needs. The Planning and Zoning Commission and the staff do recommend approval of this request with the following stipulation. And that is that the conditional use permit would go with this operator. If a new operator were to take over, a new conditional use permit would have to be requested and approved to continue this use. And as I stated, Mr. and Mrs. Wagner are here tonight, so if there's questions that I can't answer, I'm sure they can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Avery or for the Wagners? If not, I'd entertain a motion and a second to move this to the voting session to be held March 5th.
A motion will be moved to March 5th.
Second.
Session.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, the City Council will discuss a tourism plan for the city of Poplar Bluff.
Yes, as most of you know, we have a tourism tax and motel tax. 75% of those funds can be used to operate the Coliseum. 25% of the funds have to be used for tourism. The Coliseum is able to use some of that 25% when they promote or advertise for a concert or an event coming to town. Really, though, the last 2 or 3 years, the balance in that account has built up to almost $262,000, and that money cannot be used for anything but tourism. A couple of months ago, I met with Mr. Halter at the Chamber and asked him, I knew he had a tourism committee, if they might possibly come up with a plan to help promote Poplar Bluff where we could use some of these funds, and he's here tonight, and you should have that in your packet to present some of the ideas they've come up with.
Mr. Holder?
Do you need my address?
Yes.
6110 Greenbrier Drive, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. And just want to start off by saying thank you for the work that you guys do, you guys and ladies, I'm sorry. I do appreciate it. I know it's been a tough year for you, and I think you guys have done a great job handling all the different things. Apologize, I'm probably going to be a little longer than I'd like tonight, but I know it's a 13-page plan, but I'm not going to go through every page of it, but I do want to hit the highlights and have a little bit of a background as well. I get excited talking about tourism and talking about driving people to Poplar Bluff. I guess if I didn't, then I'd probably be in the wrong position, right? But I'm a lifelong resident of Poplar Bluff and definitely love to promote our area. We have a plan in front of you. We've just a little bit of a history. The Missouri Division of Tourism recognizes the Poplar Bluff Chamber as the official DMO for our area, which is Destination Marketing Organization. So we're the tourism hub. We've been doing that for way before my time, and we enjoy doing that. We have a great group of people. Some are here right now. Jeannie Garrett's here. I know Jerica Fox is here, and several others who represent hotels, restaurants, marketing firms, the Forest Service, Lake Wapapello, the museums in town, and other venues that deal with bringing visitors and taking care of visitors when they're in our area. Just a little bit of overview on industry overview on tourism. As you see in your marketing plan, for the state of Missouri, the tourism industry represents $11.2 billion. So with Poplar Bluff having great access in and out of our area with 4-lane highways like 60 and 67, and then hopefully in the near future we'll have Interstate 57 extended from Sykeston all the way down to Little Rock. I think we're in an excellent position to capture even more visitors than we are right now. Traveling to and from St. Louis, Little Rock, Nashville, Branson, just to name a few. And that's what we see from talking to the people who deal with tourists and visitors all the time, is most of the people that are coming through our area fall into two categories. They fall into just people that are passing through on their way to those areas I mentioned, and then also business people who are here Tuesday through Thursday or Monday through Friday just conducting business, but they don't live in Poplar Bluff. They're just here staying in the hotels and having meetings with different people, some of which may be in the room right here. Another interesting statistic that I just wanted to highlight that's in the plan, and that's for every $1 Missouri invests in marketing tourism, $57.76 is returned in visitor expenditures. So $1 gets you $57. That's a pretty good bang for your buck when it comes to tourism, marketing tourism. 53% of all travelers that come through the state of Missouri are also from outside of the state of Missouri. So that's the best kind of money we can get. That's new money to our area versus just circulating the same dollar over and over. So although we're not a Branson, we do have a lot of great things, as you all know, because I know most of you are from here as well, to offer tourists and people that want to come to our area. Obviously, most people know our assets are outdoors and all the things you can do, whether it's the river or the lake, whatever. But we also feel like we have some good things right here in the city of Poplar Bluff. Hydro Adventures is unique to a town our size, and really if you look around the area, what we have to offer, we have wonderful museums in our town that are unique. We have obviously the Black River Coliseum, as Mark mentioned, and the Rogers Theater that brings people in for entertainment. But those are the things that we see as our assets. The Chambers, as I mentioned, has been the local hub for tourism. Some of the things you may or may not know, we handle all the brochures. We've designed and distributed countless brochures on just what there is to do in our area. We pulled it together. We've got a nice brochure. We distribute it amongst not just around in our community, but also outside of the area. We send it to visitor centers. Anyone that sends us stuff, we try to send them our stuff. And it works out pretty well. So when people come in, they get it, or if they're passing through, if they're at the Branson Visitor Center or Sykeston or whatever, they've got our information. We've produced and currently have dining guides, antique guides. We have a very nice website that we maintain that pulls all the events together and all the places you can visit while you're in our area. We've had several successful tourism videos. Some of you may have seen them. Last year we put out one kind of explaining to everyone that although we went through all that flooding, our area was open for business, and we had over 60,000 views on that video, so it was a big success for us. We just recently, as a result of our tourism meeting, created a new Visit Poplar Bluff, Missouri Facebook page, which has started off really well. And then you've probably all seen our new electronic message board at the Chamber promoting all the different businesses and the events in town as well. Who are we trying to reach? Who's our target market? We're looking at adults 35 to 64 with children. Obviously, people that are interested in outdoors and entertainment venues like the Rogers and Black River Coliseum. Our primary target market geographic areas are, we're not limited to these areas, but these are the ones we focus on because we believe these are the folks who primarily would be interested in coming to our area. The Jonesboro area, Southern Illinois area, St. Louis market, and then Western Kentucky and Western Tennessee. Those are people that may or may not have what we have, and especially that St. Louis, Jonesboro, Southern Illinois folks, because they don't have the wonderful lakes and rivers that we have in the outdoors to go hunting and fishing and hiking and all those things. And obviously our goal is always to get an overnight stay. We want people to come in and spend the night, because if they spend the night, number one, it gives us more tourism tax to promote ourselves with, but number two, they spend their money at restaurants, at shopping, they have to gas up on the way home. The more they're here, the more they spend. So this brings me to the most important part of the plan, and that's page 9, which is the 2018 action plan. We spent a lot of time on this recently at the request of Mark and some of y'all. And there's a lot in there, but I'm just going to hit the highlights. We see, and obviously, as Mark mentioned, these recommendations rely solely on utilization of the tourism tax funds. Number one, billboards. We've used some billboards in town, and we currently have some billboards in town that we use, but we feel like we need to get out. And I know some of you feel like we need to get outside of our area and get some billboards showing the great things that we have to offer, and not just Poplar Bluff, but just our surrounding area. We all know that what's good for Wapapo Lake and what's good for Current River is good for Poplar Bluff, because those folks are going to make their way here to eat and shop and spend the night. So we prioritized the billboard placement based on visitor traffic patterns, daily traffic counts, size, and visibility of the billboards. And our recommendations in this priority, and I'll just run through them real quick. Sykeston, southbound Interstate 55, there's a 12-foot by 40-foot billboard that has about 16,600 traffic counts a day. That would be first priority. Second priority, Van Buren, eastbound on Highway 60, which is 10 foot by 36 feet, which has a count of about 11,000. Dexter, westbound on Highway 60, which is 12 by 16. It's smaller and has smaller traffic count of 5,200 per day. And then on north of town, once you get outside of the city limits, Motel 6 area, there's a north and southbound Highway 67 billboards that are quite large, and they receive about 14,000 vehicles a day. The prices that's listed in here is an estimate, changing them out quarterly. We could get by with less, but we really need to be cognitive of the seasons coming up. We shouldn't be promoting something that's going to be happening in the spring. Obviously in the summer, we should be in the spring, or we shouldn't be promoting something that's going to happen in the spring all the way back to the summer. We need to be on the spring promoting what's coming up in the summer and maybe even the fall. Those are just estimates in there, but they're pretty good estimates from a local sign company. Obviously, we'd recommend bidding it out to local companies, but that's about $35,000 a year. If you've ever used billboards, they're expensive. And if you're using them for a year's time in those locations, they're very expensive. But as you can tell, those are areas where people are traveling through, and we feel like we could get them into the Poplar Bluff area. The second recommendation is attending tourism conferences. There's a lot of conferences out there. We talked to a lot of different people, including the Missouri Division of Tourism. They recommended the Missouri Bank Travel Exchange and the American Bus Association Annual Marketplace. The Bank Exchange is just that. There's bank loyalty groups. You guys are familiar with First Midwest Bank locally. I'm sure they attend those meetings. They team those folks up with tourism representatives, and essentially the tourism representatives are pitching their community for those tours to come through or stop at your community. The American Bus Association Annual Marketplace has about 3,500 tour bus operators, suppliers, and exhibitors. Both of those combined, if we were to send 2 people from our group to go to those conferences and pitch our community, it would be about $3,500 total. And that's with getting, obviously, if we're sending folks from our group and they have with a hotel, they can get a good deal on hotels. So we figured that in. The third thing is create attraction videos for social media. Again, we have 2 or 3 really good marketing companies in our community who have this expertise, and we would encourage to be bid out to them. create a series of videos that are day trips from Poplar Bluff, encouraging them to go out and do these things and then come back to Poplar Bluff like we mentioned, and then promote those on social media, do paid boosts to where we could reach our targeted market areas to get those folks interested in coming to Poplar Bluff. You've probably all seen them if you've been on social media for other areas. Maybe you've seen some for our areas, but we'd like to ramp that up. And then we also want to bundle all those together into a reoccurring looped DVD. We've already talked to New Wave, and they're going to allow us to get them into our current hotels to where we have a constant video playing of all the great things there are to do in our area. And there's a designated channel, and it's a default channel. So when you go to a hotel in Poplar Bluff, maybe you're here doing business, maybe you're just passing through, you really don't know our area. The thought is you turn on the TV and there it is. It's great things to do, day trips from Poplar Bluff, and highlight all these things we're talking about. And it's just on a constant loop. You're probably familiar with that if you've ever traveled anywhere. I know I've seen them. It's encouraged me to do things that I didn't even know were in the area. I would venture to say that people travel through our area don't even realize, unless they've done research, that all the wonderful assets that we have. The fourth, part of that also is to create a series of social media campaign on taking pride in Poplar Bluff, and that's kind of focused on our own people. We don't want to highlight the negatives and say don't litter and don't do this and don't do this. We want to say take pride in Poplar Bluff, and here's the way you can do that, and here's how important it is, because curb appeal is important. You've probably all been to a community before, and you went into that community and you saw trash and weeds and whatever, and you said, this is just not a place I want to hang out. And that's kind of the thought process we had there. All those videos, production, promoting, we're looking at estimated costs of $6,000. And then the last thing is we feel like there's some value in advertising in certain magazines. We've identified two. One is the Go Escape magazine produced by the USA Today. Maybe you've seen it. It has 10 million viewers every year, a reach of 10 million people. We can get a quarter-page color ad in their spring-summer edition for $3,500. And then Missouri Life magazine, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. It's one of the largest magazines in our area that deals with tourism, and they have a reach of about 130,000 readership. And you can get 3 half-page ads for $3,000. So all-in cost, $51,000. These are suggestions. These are things we're encouraging you to look at. Do them all, do none of them, do a little bit of them, whatever you think works best for our community. Just remember that that's $51,000, but if you take that factor that we talked about earlier, that $1 spent, $57 in visitor expenditures, that's over $3 million potential new dollars for our area. Not saying that it's going to happen immediately, I'm just telling you there's that potential. Mark mentioned the tourism tax that was passed. I think that was in 1997, imposing a 4% tax on hotel rooms. You guys know it all. It's you know, that is money that's supposed to be used for this. And like Mark said, it's money that has to be used through ordinance, through state statute, that has to be used for tourism. It isn't like you can just take that $200,000 or whatever's in that account and spend it on other things. So we think that, you know, we love to, this is something we love to do at the chamber. The folks on my staff, our committee, we all love this stuff. We love to try to promote our area. I know you guys are all about promoting Poplar Bluff as well, and we think it's time to put a little more teeth into this and let the rest of the world know what we have to offer. And hopefully, when those folks come in, then they spend more money at our businesses, which gives us more sales tax revenue to operate our city. That's my spiel. I know I took a little longer than probably what you wanted me to take, but I wanted to get a good recap on it. So any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Steve, it's obvious you've done some work for us there.
We've done a lot of
All this,
research.
And I appreciate that. And I really like that slogan you used a while ago, taking pride in Poplar Bluff. That might be something we could multiply in some ways. I don't know, but
I appreciate your enthusiasm and expertise in this. I think it's awesome. You're onto something hot.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Further, to entertain a motion and second to move this to the voting session to be held March 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody's for it.
Motion in 3 or 4 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
What I would do on that item is just bring a budget adjustment back for the tourism fund at the next meeting, so.
All I can say is the heater's working tonight. It's hot in here.
Well, it's 70 degrees outside.
Just wait a day or two, it'll change.
It's Missouri, it'll change.
Moving on to action required items, bill number 8052. The city council will take action on an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 150, entitled Cemeteries, Section 150.020, entitled Cemetery Grave Prices, to amend the fee for grave spaces.
Move for first reading of bill number 8052 in caption only.
Second.
Motion second for first reading, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance amending the Poplar Bluff Code of Ordinances, Chapter 150.020.A1, relating to prices for grave spaces in city-owned cemeteries.
Move for second reading in bill number 8052 by caption only.
Second.
Motion second for second reading, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance amending the Poplar Bluff Code of Ordinances, Chapter 150.020.A, parentheses 1, relating to prices for grave spaces in city-owned cemeteries.
Move for adoption of bill number 8052.
Second.
Motion second to adopt. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Mrs. Kirby.
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Councilman Crocker,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
yes,
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh.
Yes.
And Mayor DeGarris.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Bill number 8052 passes. Bill number 8053, the city council will take action on an ordinance making amendments to the 2018 budget.
Move for first reading of bill number 8053 by caption only.
second,
Motion second for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance amending the 2018 fiscal year budget of the city of Poplar Bluff for its various departments.
Move for second reading bill number 8053 by caption only.
Second.
Motion second for second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance amending the 2018 fiscal year budget for the city of Poplar Bluff for its various departments.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion second to adopt. Any comments, questions? Roll call, Mrs. Kirby.
Councilman Crocker,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
yes,
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh.
Yes.
And Mayor DeGarris.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Bill number 8053 is passed. Bill number 8054, the city council will take action on an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a deed and acceptance of conveyance with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to finalize the city's acceptance of a portion of Herschel Best Boulevard to the city of Poplar Bluff.
motion for first reading, caption only, bill 8054,
Second.
Motion second, first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance accepting a conveyance of property from the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for a portion of Herschel Best Boulevard in the city limits of the city of Poplar Bluff.
Move for second reading of bill number 8054 by caption only.
Second.
Motion second for second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance accepting a conveyance of property from the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for a portion of Herschel Best Boulevard in the city of Poplar Bluff.
Move for adoption of bill number 8054.
Second.
Motion second for adoption. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Mrs. Kirby.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
yes,
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Councilman Crocker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh.
Yes.
And Mayor DeGarris.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Bill number 8054 is passed. Bill number 8055, the city council will take action on an ordinance approving a taxi cab license for Mr. Roy Lee Mellon and Mrs. Tammy Mellon.
Move for first reading of bill number 8055 by caption only.
Second.
Motion second for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance approving and authorizing the issuance of a taxi cab license to Roy Mellon and Tammy Mellon, DBA Mellon's City Cab.
Move for second reading of bill number 8055 by caption only.
second,
Motion second for second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance approving and authorizing the issuance of a taxi cab license to Roy Mellon and Tammy Mellon, DBA Mellon's City Cab.
Move for adoption of Bill number 8055.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Mrs. Kirby?
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Councilman Crocker,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh,
Yes.
and Mayor DeGarris.
Yes.
We have 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Bill number 8055 is passed. Bill number 8056, the City Council will take action on an ordinance amending ordinance number 7239 to correct the zoning designation from RS3 Central Area Residential to RA2 Residential Apartment for property located adjacent to Hickman Road that was annexed into the city on February 22nd of 2011.
Motion for first reading of bill number 8056, caption only.
Second.
Motion second for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7239, passed on February 22nd, 2011, to correct a scrivener's error.
Move for second reading Bill number 8056 by caption only.
Second.
Motion second for second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7239, passed on February 22nd, 2011, to correct a scrivener's error.
Move for adoption of Bill number 8056.
Second.
Motion second to adopt. Any comments, questions? Roll call, Mrs. Kirby?
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Councilman Crocker,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh,
Yes.
and Mayor DeGarris.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Bill number 8056 is passed. Resolution number 1871, the City Council will take action on a resolution stating intent to seek funding through the Community Development Block Grant Program and authorizing the mayor to pursue activities in an attempt to secure funding.
Move for the reading of resolution number 1871 by caption only.
Second.
Motion second for the reading of the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
A resolution of the City of Poplar, Bluff, Missouri, stating its intent to apply for a grant from the Community Development Block Grant Program for improvements to the Rogers Theater.
Move for adoption of resolution number 1871.
Second.
Motion second to adopt. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Mrs. Kirby?
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Councilman Crocker,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McVeigh.
Yes.
And Mayor DeGarris.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Resolution 1871 is passed. There's been informed there's no need for a closed session. So, city manager's report.
Well, Dennis Avery kept leaving. I guess he's left for good. I was going to let everybody know tonight was his last night to be here in an official capacity, and just wanted to thank him for his service and having a little going-away party for him Thursday afternoon at the Coliseum at 2 o'clock. So any of you that can be there would be much appreciated. Wanted to let you all know that I've looked at several places that we might possibly move municipal court and city council chambers, and what I hope to do is at the next meeting bring back a report and possibly a recommendation on where we should move that. Also, we've received applications for the city planner's job and human resource position. Hopefully interview for city planner later this week and the human resource in the next couple of weeks, and get both of those started sometime in March. And just a reminder that Buff Up the Bluff will be held on April 28th. That's a Saturday. So any of you have junk you need to get rid of, that's a great opportunity to do that. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Don't forget, Saturday, there's a chili cook-off for the United Gospel Rescue Mission at the Boys and Girls Club. Oh, not Boys and Girls, Black River Coliseum. Excuse me.
There's going to be some very discerning judges there also.
I think I might be one of them.
Yeah, me too.
But it's for a good cause for the rest of the mission, so I hope everybody can come out and enjoy it. It's always fun. If you can get some fire engine hot and some really mild, so it's okay.
You know that you mentioned that, I mean, really since Christmas time, there's been a lot of people in that Coliseum on the weekends.
There has been.
There's been a lot of events happening, so.
Good for that. Well, let's go before we all burn up. My socks are sweating.
He's a bigger cavalier.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.
I just wanted to say that the dog park is opening March 3rd. It's our grand opening event at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
All of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know, come on.